Jawohl. And moving on. Sorry, that was unintentional. I wasn't. I don't want to be mean at Germans either because it's not their fault. Not anymore. Not in 2019. Second generation, third generation war victims traits. This is actually what I started off writing because it's a scenario that I have been living myself every step of the way as I sit here. As I sit here and talk to you, this is the thing that has struck me again and again. Once I learned that this was a thing, I started kind of opening up my brain, which is crucial because going back to my first trait in the other series, pseudo-independence is a really big deal in war survivors, the children of war survivors. I'm talking about the people who have not experienced the actual direct war themselves. Also, the children of people who haven't necessarily experienced severe violence or fighting or any of that very directly. All this may be utterly hidden and subversive, and it comes out in the behavior anyway. And the first thing that's really always struck me as being significant and paramount in the observation of war victims, survivors, and children of them is that what I've written down here is you have to do everything yourself, alone. Asking for help is sort of anathema because there is no help, because there didn't used to be any help in the 50s and 60s. People were all sort of trying to make do with each other, and they had no clue that they could help each other by supporting each other and within families. That was nigh on impossible, where I came from anyway. And so there's a side to that where you get to the pseudo-independence bit, really. These people and the children of them and their children learn to do many things. We used to learn to do almost everything ourselves. So you get kind of clever, you're proud of your cleverness and your abilities and all the things. And all it does is really just keep you alive because that's what you're doing. It's a strong survival trait. I'm not asking anyone to be on my team. I'm not asking, even just saying this, I find this does a kind of a whirligig inside here. Because asking for someone to assist me, wow. Hanging on to this, I'm going into my second theme of perpetuation again. There's a great constancy in the distrust towards anybody who's not in the inner circle. That's something I've really found with the war victims. We are clinging to people within our own circles and families, and we refuse access in all directions. So towards strangers to come to us. My mother used to be completely inaccessible to my husband. She wasn't available. She was there and she would talk to him, but she wouldn't really, because of the thing, And so there is a sense of perpetuation in that, in the lack of trust, utter lack of basically, I think it hinges around that, around the sort of a sense of almost hyper alert wariness. You don't even start processing what strange people do. And for me, growing up in all sorts of countries and having to deal with all sorts of strangers, maybe it was good that I had soul loss because I would have gone completely bonkers, is my personal opinion. Number 3, low self-esteem, lowness in self-image. People have this background, never ask for improvement. You have no rights whatsoever. Isolation, feeling isolated is normal. Everything, no matter what, is normal. So there may be a lot of resistance about that. There may be anger also, which you don't find in the lost twin situation. Here you will find anger, depression. I'm skipping one item here to go directly to low emotion, because there will be depression from lack of freedom. And what did I write down here? Lack of free identification. Yes, so you have to conform always. So that will screw with us. And it depends on what your life is doing around you, how you cope with that. But there's bound to be a lot of anger and potentially fear and violence and all that. The other item that I just sort of skipped over just now about the codependency, that thing, okay? In this type of relationship, there will be an interaction between obsessive compulsive behaviors and chameleon type behaviors, where because there are too few people involved, and growing up, the child does not have enough potential or opportunities to move outside this clingy little circle. That's where you get, from the one side, the obsessiveness, the repetitiveness that may show itself in all sorts of ways, up to hoarding and over cleanliness and what have you, name it. It depends on who they are. For me, it was my mother who couldn't stay in one position, in one place, ever. She just couldn't connect to people, ever, really, anymore. And as the years went by, I think there certainly was some type of an obsessive compulsive component in that part of her. And she always had really strong opinions about people and things. And so all I could do, being on the receiving end of that, and being the only one in the team with her, really, all I could do was be a chameleon, being this sort of absorbing identity less, completely without identity myself, a sponge who just went along with whatever was given right there. So I'm I don't think I'm having any other additions at this point. So I'm going to move straight on to number 3, which is the soul loss category. I think I may have a bit more detail there because that's what I've had the most direct experience with in my own life, especially recently. So as my mother has passed away 23 and a bit years ago, it will be 24 years in November. That's all, a lot of that has gone in the past. So I can also study it and study the phenomena and the effects and the memories and observe more and more, which is what I do. So hence also all these playlists and all these details that I'm, putting out there just now. I feel a tendency inside myself to, I'm just going to do a little footnote here, to do the thing that certainly second generation war survivors have always done, which is, all this is true, but it isn't all misery, because there were these, and the other good things. See? That's how it really works. You sort of, you have this emptiness, but you put all sorts of pretty furniture in there and sort of shift the focus to the positive memories, to the things that were the languages that I learned, the books that I read, and the landscapes and traveling and all that. So you are compensating all the time. So you can stick that in also with the codependency interactions, or with the pseudo-independence, it all applies to each other the whole time, like I said. Okay, thank you so far. I think I'm doing rather well here. Watch with being prepared. Wow. On to number 3. See you there.